welcome back to Side Street Leather, and thank you for joining for another video. I feel it's important to always make a sketch of the product you're going to make. If you don't have something written down, you don't have something to go back to. I'll end up referring to this plan multiple times. Even though most of what I make uses leather, I still enjoy using other materials when possible. You could cut these out by hand, that's not a problem. If you're only making one, go ahead, do it. If you're going to make 10, you probably want to find a faster way. This is where setting up the CNC workflow pays off dividends. You spent all the time to come up with the plan once, now every time you want to do it again, just hit start. The next step is to stabilize the wood. I'm going to use a penetrating resin similar to what a wood turner would use for pens or similar products. The end caps probably don't need stabilized, but it doesn't cost me any more time to do it, so I'm just going to do it. I'm mostly concerned about the buckle on the front. I really don't want it to break. The first thing you have to do is pull a vacuum to remove all of the air from the wood. In just a moment, we'll see a bunch of bubbles coming out of the wood. Depending on the wood, this could take 12 to 24 hours. This is that same wood 12 hours later, still plenty of bubbles. In the meantime, let's work on the leather part of the bag. We're going to go ahead and cut it out at 25 centimeters wide. There's no particular reason, and if you want to make it shorter or longer, that's completely up to you. There's no wrong choice. It's pretty important to pay attention to your measurements and sizes. Once you've cut leather, you can't cut it again to make it longer. So it's better to make it longer, and then you can trim it back to a shorter length if necessary. You do want to be careful with the glue. You don't want to get it on any surface that's going to be visible. Anytime I glue up leather, I use a dedicated cutting mat. That way if I do get a spot of glue on the mat, when I take the leather off and get rid of the mat, so is the glue. We're going to go ahead and punch these holes all the way through both layers. That's what's going to allow us to attach the front part of the buckle. I wasn't really sure where to stamp the logo, felt if it was visible all the time, it might be distracting from the bag. I think this is going to be a good spot. It's visible when someone opens the bag, but it's not distracting otherwise. It's been 24 hours, there's no more bubbles, so we can go ahead and release the vacuum. Once we pull it out of the vacuum, we need to let the wood sit in the resin for about 48 hours. This gives time for the resin to absorb back into the wood to fill in all of those empty pockets we just made. We'll come back to this once it's soaked for about 48 hours. If you're going to be making a lot of shoulder straps or a lot of any other straps, a cutter like this is a great, cheap investment. The most important thing is make sure you have a sharp blade. If you find anything in this video helpful or informative and want to see more similar content, please let me know in the comments. If you want to watch similar videos in the future, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you don't miss them. These are going to be the straps that hold the square rings onto the wooden parts of the bag. While I was burnishing these, I also made sure to burnish the back edge of the strap. That makes sure that it doesn't get caught on anybody's clothes or leaves pieces that look like lint. Now that it's been 48 hours, we're going to take these out. We're going to put them on some aluminum foil and toss them into the oven. I've used cardboard as the tray just in case there's a leak. If it gets dirty, it's not a problem. I can just toss it in the recycling. We're going to put this in the oven for 2 hours at 140 degrees Celsius, or about 280 degrees Fahrenheit. There's one last CNC operation. In the top buckle, we need to put a slot that allows us to slide the leather into that piece of wood. I'm going to apply a hard wax oil as a finish on all of the wood pieces. Before I did this, off camera, I sanded everything to 120 and then 240 grit. You wipe it on nice and thick on the first coat, give it a few minutes, and then buff it off. After you wait for it to dry, you can go ahead and sand it with 400 grit sandpaper and apply another coat. Just wipe it on, wait a few minutes, and buff it off. Keep doing this until you get to the finish you want. Depending on how thick your leather is, it may be too thick for your screws to go all the way through 2 layers of leather and then into your buckle. In that case, on the second layer of leather, the one on the inside of the bag, just punch a hole that's big enough for the head of the screw to be recessed into that layer of leather. Once the finish is dry enough that I won't scratch it, I'll go ahead and attach the square rings. This gives us somewhere to attach the shoulder strap. When you stitch this up, you want to make this as tight as possible. The leather is going to stretch out over time, and this makes sure it doesn't get too loose. I'm marking a line on the edge of the leather about 7 millimeters in. This makes sure I don't get glue anywhere that would be visible on the inside of the bag. Once the glue dries a little bit, it gets tacky, that's going to be the right time to put the 2 pieces together. I'm only going to do this one surface at a time to make sure that I can keep everything flush. Although the glue will do a good job of holding the leather onto the wood, I'm going to go ahead and add a few nails. Like I said before, it's better to leave things long so you can cut them and trim them down later. You can use anything you want to be your guide. Here I'm just using a coin I have laying around. It's really important to make sure we get this in the exact center of the flap. If you don't, it's not going to line up with the other half of the buckle. You want to be careful that you don't over tighten these and strip them out. If you do, you have to start over. The last piece is the shoulder strap. On one end, we're going to use a Chicago screw to attach it to the square ring. On the other end, we're going to put a monk head pin. Both the Chicago screw and the monk head pin are just screwed on in place. If you want to make it impossible to take apart, go ahead and add some Loctite. If you've made it all the way to the end of this video, I just want to say thank you. If you feel like I deserve it and want me to keep making similar videos, please consider liking the video, subscribing to my channel, and leaving a comment.